Chris, roll tide. It's the third week in October. Let's go.
The third Saturday in October uh, has a tendency to make what's happened in the first few weeks kind of escape from the memory for a little while. And while 2 weeks ago, obviously, I guess fully a week ago now, was less than ideal, and Saturday wasn't perfect. At least we're coming back into this game off the taste of victory and can focus on what's truly one of the most special rivalries in all of college football.
It really is. And just looking back for a moment to that South Carolina game, got up 14-0. Things changed a little bit right before halftime in the third quarter, but still for Kalen DeBoer and this football team to find a way to win the ball game has to be a huge takeaway from what we saw Saturday.
Yeah, and obviously a lot to clean up. And having talked with Coach for both radio and doing his TV show right after the game, that's obviously on his mind. The end of game as well as middle of the middle eight, as he always refers to it as, the final four of the first half, the first four of the second, didn't go the way we wanted to see them go from Alabama's perspective, and just kind of bizarre at the end of that first half, everything that transpired, um, and had to come up with another interception in the end zone or real close to it, in order to preserve a win, but got it done. And that's the thing. I just think this day and age of college football, Roger, is very, very different. What I'm not sure that there is a dominant team right now in college football. Texas has looked to the moment as though they could fit that, uh, fit that description, but we'll know a lot more after they play Georgia, what that actually looks like. Uh, Obviously, we've seen Georgia, both the really, really good things and the flaws, the same with Alabama, the same with virtually everybody. I'm not sold on Penn State, uh, you know, being a great elite team right now either. There are a bunch of really good ones, and this may be the best year for that you could have possibly had for a first year of the playoff once we get there, because there's going to be a lot of parity, I think. But that all being said, you got to take care of business, and this is a big ball game Saturday for both Alabama and Tennessee. And you're right, coming for Alabama, coming off of that win against South Carolina, where there were a lot of warts in that one. After what I thought was the start they had to have, so efficient, so productive, 4 minutes touchdown, and really the first, 26 minutes of the first half were were very, very good on the defensive side, and then some things that the offense created to put the defense in a tough spot, but also some miscues on the defensive side allow that to become a much tighter game than any of us wanted to see, but still made the plays at the end to get the victory.
Still got the victory, so solid Saturday with that in mind from this past week against South Carolina. And like you said, now we move on to Alabama against Tennessee. Just when you hear third Saturday in October, what immediately comes to mind?
Uh, I'm going to go the positive and the nice stuff. When you start to make that drive for me, and you're coming from the Birmingham area, as I've always done, to go up there, um, to see the colors this time of year, and it'll start to be beautiful as you move up into the northern part of the state of Alabama and into Tennessee, and all the scenery. That is something that is always special. Um, on a personal note, my my daughter was born on October 20th. Um, she got me out of having to make a trip to Knoxville during that stretch where things weren't going very well for Alabama in the early 2000s, because she showed up about 5 weeks early. So always grateful to her for that. Um, she so that's there's a lot of meaning there, but from the true rivalry and the game standpoint, you think of the legendary coaches on both sides, the games that have been, some very dramatic, some have been especially on the Alabama side in the last 20 years, have been very enjoyable blowouts uh, in front of the Tennessee faithful, uh, or faithful for 3.5 quarters, and then they lost faith and left. And I said it several times on air, and thankfully I've had a chance to say it several times. Uh, Football and basketball, there's no sight quite so lovely as Orange leaving a building early. If you're an Alabama fan, and we've seen that in some times, I will be shocked if this is not a down to the wire ball game, which we had obviously the last time we were in Knoxville, and that was gut wrenching, and the utter collapse that took place defensively at the end of that ball game, and the fact that you couldn't put that thing away the way you should have, and then to see Tennessee, drive as they did on just a couple of busted coverages by Alabama, great plays by them, to win it in the dramatic fashion that they did. That's something. It's the only win they've had in the last 17 years, I guess, 17 years in the rivalry, and yet it's still thoroughly disgusting, and it gnaws at you, and you don't want to experience that again. So it's amazing. It is utterly amazing. I experienced it 2 years ago. I went from thinking that, for so long, cigar smell was the greatest smell in the world to going, ugh, this is disgusting. So it's all on whether you're enjoying it or having to experience it that I think determines your disdain or utter enjoyment of the aroma. But hopefully we're lighting them up and enjoying ourselves when we come out of that stadium on Saturday.
Well, Alabama had the last laugh last year, and I think of all the pictures you posted, everyone loved the Final Four stuff, things you've done around Alabama football. But the picture of you lighting up last year in the Crimson Tide Sports Marketing Suite probably got you the most engagement and likes you had on social media a year ago.
Wasn't the intent. Somebody said, "Hey, we want your picture," and that was kind of the cool thing about last year. I had no in-game assignments for the home game, so I could just be a fan, and I was, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And then getting to do the TV show with Coach Saban afterward was a lot of fun as well. But the phrase is true: to the victor go the spoils, and part of the spoil is getting to light one up in this rivalry, a tradition that goes back 60 plus years of doing that. It's part of what makes it special. And again, for a rivalry to matter, yes, you have to thoroughly enjoy it to win, but to thoroughly enjoy it, really, when you win, means that you have to hate it when you lose. And I've said this many times. Normally, in a game that you feel like you should have won, but didn't, even if it's not against a rival, I've said several times. Sometimes winning feels so good because losing would have felt so bad. It doesn't matter what type of game it is, whether you're blown out, it rarely happens for Bama, but if it's blowout or a narrow victory at the end, there's nothing like winning against a team you want to beat. And the Alabama Auburn rivalry is obvious. That's in state. It's brother versus brother. It's that type deal. It's just different with Alabama Tennessee. It's it's the border deal, and you don't. I don't know. It's very different. And then the things that 20 years ago plus it involved the NCAA. There's a lot of us that don't forget and don't intend to. It's just the reality. So it became personal for a lot of Alabama fans, and 16 out of 17 is not enough. There can't be enough wins for it to be okay. We're content. There's payback. That's not the way it's going to be. Can't get enough of them to fully feel like there's total enjoyment and payback. You got to win them all.
It's going to be exciting to see this matchup coming up on Saturday. And before we let you go, it was certainly exciting. We previewed it last week, but we got to get your reaction to the
Yeah.
Final Four banner raising that was held at Coleman Coliseum. And not just the championship rings, the excitement around what happened last year, but Chris, looking forward to what's coming up in just 3 weeks with the official start of the season. We got a little taste of that as well this past Friday.
Roger, that to me was the part that I think is so cool, that we're celebrating something that historically had never happened with Alabama men's basketball. And yet there's maybe more excitement than there's ever been because of what lies ahead. I mean, there was another ranking. I think it was Andy Katz, who does, has followed college basketball for years. He's got Alabama #1, and it's ahead of a very good Kansas team. Uh, this, and we had a chance to see why at the event the other night. The most talented team in the preseason that Alabama basketball's ever had. And there were, 2, 3 guys that are going to contend for starting time, if not already penciled in as starters, that didn't play, that didn't hit the floor in that game. So, man, just loaded for bear and excited about it and cannot wait to get things going. And Tide fans are actually going to have their first chance this weekend with the Bama and Boutwell event. I hate that I'm not going to be able to go and be there because I'll already be in Knoxville. But man, as a little boy, my dad took me to see the Harlem Globetrotters play at Boutwell Auditorium. And that was when, no disrespect intended now, but man, that was a big deal back then. I mean, 50 years ago, the Harlem Globetrotters with some of the most legendary names they ever had. I saw Meadowlark Lemon and Geese Osby and Curly Neal that were just phenomenal showmen. And it was back at that time, the Globetrotters for basketball fans were about as big as the NBA itself. I mean, it was an event when the Globetrotters came to town, and the BJCC wasn't built yet. So Boutwell Auditorium was the big auditorium in Birmingham, and to go there, maybe. And I was trying to think the other day, I don't know that I've set foot in that building since, and I'm going to try to get a little sneak preview from my friends at Night Edie this week before I leave town. I'd like to slip in there and see what it looks like, because I know a lot of work has been done, and that's terrific. And I think there'll be a lot of nostalgia for older Alabama fans, but it's going to be a great way to get things going. It's just an exhibition. It's really a scrimmage, but it'll be treated very much like a game for Bama fans to see the Tide against a good Wake Forest program. And then coming up, the following week, we go to Huntsville, and you see Alabama, or maybe a week and a half later, see the Tide playing in Huntsville against Memphis in another exhibition game. But a great opportunity to see the fans in a cool older building in the Von Braun Center. And I've had to program myself to say Von Braun because of the way it's spelled. We Bama folks have said Von Braun for years, but Dr. Werner Von Braun, I'm told over and over and over again by my friends in Huntsville, that's how they pronounce it. That's how he pronounced it. So regardless, whatever it is, the VBC is what we'll call it, and avoid the arguments. But excited to see that Bama team play up in Huntsville against a good Memphis squad as well.
Basketball's coming. Hopefully Cigars coming up on Saturday in Knoxville. Yep. Chris, always enjoy our visits ahead of Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show on Wednesday, and obviously the football game on Saturday. Just best of luck with everything that's going on this week. Roll Tide. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, buddy. Looking forward to it. Always enjoy this.